Hello, and thanks for watching my second ever development log video. You'll have to excuse my tone if I don't sound like I'm in a good mood. It's because I've just spent 2 hours doing a live recording, and then my electricity cut off because I have one of those meters where you need to put a fob in, and I've just lost 2 hours of work. So that's good. Um, I feel sometimes like there's like some sort of divine presence that doesn't want me to make games. Like last time it was the dog barking, this time the electricity cut out. I feel like God doesn't want me to finish this game. If I believed in God, I don't believe in God. And if he is real, he's pretty shit at his job, isn't he? So, Andrew Tate exists and Tommy Robinson and Donald Trump and all of that. But anyway, let's not get into politics. So, unfortunately, I did a whole run through of how the AI system works in the game, and we've lost all of it. So I don't know whether to. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to carry on from where I left off. So I'm sorry. There's a bunch of background information missing, and I just don't want to do all that for 2 hours again. So we're just kicking off from here. So, where were we? Okay, so basically working on an AI system, and this is a creature, an enemy, whatever you want to call it, and this uses the AI system. So this guy has a brain, and this is a brain. Look, he's got a brain, and when this brain is enabled, it is going to enact a bunch of things for like positioning and whatnot, and kind of like its own attributes. It's going to decide on some actions. So I'm not going to go into detail about that. I'll probably go back into detail in another video when I'm less pissed off. But right now, I'm going to go into this. So these are some of the attack patterns that are called by the brain, and it weighs and decides which attack patterns should be followed through. You'll notice there's a lot of shared attributes, pattern, weight, minimum range, and all of these. That's because they all implement an abstract class for like a base ability, basically, or attack pattern, or whatever you want to call it. So if we look through these, I'm just going to get a different enemy as a little reference point. So we have this thing here called a Cradict, and you see his ability, place, bomb, jump away. If he is right up next to you or 15 meters away, he's going to try and cast this, unless there's something else that's within this range, and then he's going to use the weights to decide which one he'd rather do. So there's going to be like some element of randomness. So for example, if there was another one with a pattern weight of 1, there'd be a 50% chance of him doing this or doing sort of a melee attack. Now the main thing here is that this doesn't require a weapon, and the weapon it doesn't require ammo either. So the difference being is that this guy here requires weapons to be able to do what he wants to do. So, for example, this ability here, Fire Pitbull, he needs to at least back off slightly before firing it, but he can fire it from really far away. It requires this weapon, and it requires 1 ammo of this weapon, and then he can do a little warning, a little preamble before he shoots you or whatever, so it gives you time to react. Initial delay before attacks, delay between each shot, and then maybe a downtime, like a backswing, and then how many he's going to do. So he's going to fire his gun twice. So what I went through in the last video, which you won't see because it's gone forever, thanks God. Basically, what you're not going to see is there was a bug that we were essentially going through, and I'll go into some detail about it. But basically, if we get a weapon and we put it on the floor, I'm typing in weapon, that's not going to help, is it? So we will put, which one shall we place on the floor? We're going to put this shotgun down, and we're putting the shotgun down because the player can use every weapon, and this guy has an ability that requires a shotgun. So what he's gonna do is gonna iterate through and go, can I attack? Well, let's have a look at my attacks, shall we? Because these are all listed under attack. So it's gonna try and get into range. It's gonna go, no, I don't have this gun, can't do anything. Don't have this, can't do anything. Don't have this, can't do anything. Oh, I do have this. So I'm gonna scan the environment and look and see if there's a shotgun. And if there is a shotgun, I'm gonna pick it up and then I'm gonna fire it. It's a bit more complicated than that, but I'll show you this in action. Give it a second. Whoa! Okay. Well, that's not what we were expecting. Interesting. Right. So, this takes us back to where we were. So, basically, I need to open up Visual Studio, don't I? It's the only way. Give it a second. So it's a shame because I was going through the sort of thought process that got me here, and it's all been thrown away now. But basically, I will. In fact, I'll just comment all of this out for now. My life is a green loading bar. This is all I know. Yeah. 20 seconds to comment out a paragraph of code. Right, so... Jesus Christ. I have the patience of a monk. I have the patience of a Tibetan monk. Right, so... This guy, he's picked up this weapon, and he's happy because there's no enemies around. Place an enemy down. Oh, he got damaged. So he's trying to back away from that enemy. He wants to pick up some health. And he's going to try and shoot that gun. There we go. And he's happy. He's happy that there's no enemies around. And if I take his weapon away... Oh. And then summon an enemy. He's scared. He's frightened because he has nowhere to defend himself. And drop this gun for him. Yeah. And he's got a gun. And he's going to use it. So basically, the AI agent's working. The weapons are working. What's not working is the weapon offset. When I place it into like the limb of something that carries it, it's not calibrated properly. So for all intents and purposes, this guy's working properly, but his aim is off. And the gun works properly, but the gun's aim is off. So he's kind of annoying me, this guy, so I'm going to clamp him to that wall over there. There we go. So, weapons can be in three states. They can be equipped. This weapon is equipped. They can be dormant, where I drop it on the floor, and now an interactive volume appears, which means I can pick it up, or the enemy can pick it up. Or a weapon can also be thrown. Now, these weapons aren't throwable weapons, so I'm going to use a weapon cheat to summon one of these. So this machine gun, you can also throw it, and it will damage stuff. This can be thrown. This can be thrown, and it causes like a little... that must not work on those, but this one blows up when you throw it. So, you know, different throw effects. So the weapon can be lethal, which means it's kind of flying through the air like this. Whoop. And then it becomes dormant, and then I pick it up. Equipped, dormant, equipped. Lethal, dormant. Equipped, dormant, right? So you get the idea. So what I thought was happening, and proved was happening in the last video, was that essentially everyone has each weapon works independently. So a weapon on the floor can just fire by itself. So if I press K as a little test, you see that shotgun is firing, and this works for any weapon. So I could put this on the floor and they'll fire. So these weapons are independent, but basically what we have is something called a weapon manager, and that lets you plug in an optional owner into the weapon. So you might want to do that because the weapon might heal the owner, it might move the owner in some way, it might require that the owner uses energy to fire the weapon or something like that, right? So it could be in these different states. So what my sort of hypothesis was around this was that when I was placing a weapon on the floor that an enemy could pick up or the player could pick up, I'm going to shuffle my weapons and we'll do this, for example. He wants this weapon, so I'm going to... I think he's trying to pick health up right now. So if I destroy all the health... What is your intent right now? Oh, he's trying to pick this up, I think. What's he trying to do? Oh, there we go, yeah. He was trying to pick this up. So he was kind of locked in to trying to pick that up right now. So AI is still in progress, obviously. He still needs a bit of work. But essentially, what was happening was I was getting a weapon that both of us could use, and we were both picking this weapon up at the exact same time. And this is what was causing this bug. Now, in the weapon manager, we bind an owner to the weapon. And we basically say, yeah, this person has control of this weapon right now. So what was happening was that I, as the player, have a weapon manager in my hand, and this has a weapon manager attached to his hand as well. And what's happening is that there's only one instance of the weapon, but both of us were binding our weapon managers to it, which basically like long story short, the enemy could control my weapon after I picked it up. It could fire my weapon, and I could fire the enemy's weapon, so vice versa. So, but the two of us have control of the same weapon. So what I was trying to get to the bottom of was this issue, because if I can resolve this issue, then I can carry on working on the AI system, because this is kind of a little bit game breaking right now. So this got us to here, which we have this little method here called bind gun prefab to owner. And what was essentially happening was I wanted to put in a guard clause to make sure, so if there's a weapon on the floor, essentially it doesn't have an owner. When you pick it up, an owner is bound to it, and when you drop it, the owner becomes null again. So what this was checking was if somebody already owns this, I should be doing some sort of guard clause. Now the guard clause, I could either have it so that I override that weapon and I pick it up myself, or the enemy picks it up, but two people can't pick it up at once in the same frame. And this is what was happening, and I kind of, my suspicions were correct, basically. So what we were doing here was basically just, I put this in because I want it to be visible, because I do have quite a few debug logs running at the moment, and especially because I'm doing, what do you call it as well, because I'm doing a lot of debugging. I have a lot of this coming up right now. So like I have this AI debugger, for example. Okay, cool, excellent. So what are we doing now? My brain stopped working. Yeah, so we're basically trying to resolve this. So if I use this bind gun prefab to owner, I can see where this is referenced, basically, and we go into there's try generate new gun, and there's try pickup gun. Now these are the only two places this method's called from, so let's sort of do a process of elimination. So we know that this place is called in 11 different places, which might look a bit overwhelming. However, it's called in this method gain all main weapons cheat, and this only responds to a key press, so we can rule out all of these instantly. We also have gain random weapons cheat, which basically lists all the weapons, shuffles them, and then returns a certain amount. Right now it just returns everything. And so we know it's not that, because that requires a key press. And the only two that we have left is instantiate and initialize starting weapons. Now in the inspector, we can set the starting weapons we'd like. So for example, that guy that I've clamped to the wall, bit rude. He starts with a couple of weapons, so and it will try and generate those starting guns. However, if you are the player, it's going to go through your save file and it's going to load in your guns. So this isn't an issue, because this only gets called at the beginning, and these only get called when I use cheats. So if we go back to try generate gun, all the way back here, we know that this isn't the culprit, so it can't be the culprit. So if we go back to bind to owner, So it was referenced in there, but we can rule that out in try generate new gun. So basically, the issue is happening in try pick up gun, which makes sense because when I try and pick up a gun, it calls try pick up gun, and the same for an enemy as well. So I can interact with it, or an enemy can get in range to pick it up. Now, what's happening in bind gun prefab to owner is this gets called this gets hit at the beginning because the owner is originally set in the start method or the await method, essentially. So we look at these references, try generate new gun, and we try generate the starting guns here, and this is called once, and this is called in the start method. And you'll notice in the start method that we get the weapon owner here. So this kind of makes sense because a weapon doesn't have an owner at the beginning, but a weapon manager has to have an owner because a weapon manager is bound to a living thing like the player or an enemy or a turret stand or something like that. So we don't need to worry about that happening there. But what's going to happen is that this is going to get called because obviously we do bind the owner. So this is going to get called and it's not going to load in any of these starting weapons right now. That's fine. So we don't need to worry about that. So what we do need to worry about is try pick up gun. So this is going to be our culprit right here. So if I go into try pick up gun, and we're going to look at the different places that this happens, right? So the enemy's locomotion, where it decides where to go, it's going to pick up a weapon. If it can pick up a weapon, try pick up gun. And the beauty of try pick up gun is it will return a bull. So we can have some fallback behaviour if it fails, right? Now we have generic weapon impact throw effect. Yeah, this is kind of cool. If you throw a gun at someone on the same team as you, they'll say thank you and they will now have the gun. So that's nice. Weapon manager, try pick up gun. On trigger hit. Now this is the chameleon head, which yanks weapons off of different enemies. And then we also have the interactive volume that's generated on the weapon, where if you go up to it as the player, you have like a sort of raycast thing that looks for weapons. And if you interact with it, you'll try and pick up the gun. So it never enforces picking up the gun, it just tries to pick up the gun. Now the beauty of this is when we go into bind gun prefab to owner here, we can actually return. So there's two things we can do, right? We can go, okay, one person picks it up and that's that, and then we have this guard clause, or we reject it and go, someone's already picked it up. So we could actually return a bull here, and then we could return a false here because somebody already owns it, and then otherwise we go through the I forgot what you call it, the success path or whatever you want to call it, and we return true. Now bind gun prefab to owner, we do this in here. We don't want to do this in here, right? Because this gets called on start and weapon owner's already set, so it's going to reject everything, right? So when we're not actually going to be able to load up our starting weapon, so we don't want this. And you know what? We don't want to return a ball. This should unequivocally do exactly what it's supposed to do, and we should guard this before we get to it. Because this isn't try bind gun prefab to owner. This is bind gun. This is real, right? You know, this is happening. So we're gonna go in here into try pick up gun, and we know that this is trying to pick up a gun that's in the world that doesn't have an owner. So here we go. So if the weapon is already owned, so if the weapon owner isn't null, and we go onto here and we know it isn't null because it's it's essentially moved through to here, and the owner game object isn't null, so it's owned by someone, then we're going to hit this and we're going to return a false. Now I might be crazy, but I think that might have fixed it. So basically the way to test this is it's quite an intermittent error. It doesn't happen reliably, so it's quite annoying trying to like invoke this. So basically the best way to do this is controlled chaos. I just want to put enemies everywhere, weapons everywhere, have everyone scrambling, fighting, etc. One of the biggest culprits of this is, and this is something I need to look at, is the chameleon head. So when we go into here, oh, hello. So he's failing to pick that gun up. So this is interesting. Oh my god! Shut up! Please be quiet. There we go. Right. So we're gonna try and pick this up. Now this is interesting. It says boomstick is already owned by the player. Very interesting. So we're gonna have to investigate this a little bit more. But I'm kind of digressing here, but I wanted to go through another issue that we're probably going to have, right? Is that this can be dormant, or it can be lethal and thrown, or it can be equipped. Well, the chameleon lets you pick up small objects and spit them out. Or, if I get hurt, oh, you know, ow, scary, I can pick this gun up. I can't pick it up. I've broken picking it up. 1 second. I'm going to use a cheat to get the chameleon head back. Yeah, I can swallow the health to get it back. So, you know, pretty cool. You can do some skill shots with it. But also, it lets you pick up weapons and pull them to you. So, however, I've just disabled that behaviour. It also lets you disarm other enemies. So, you know, this guy here. I think the hitbox is a bit dodgy on this. I'm not sure where I need to sort of recalibrate that. There we go. But that would usually equip the weapon automatically as you steal it. Now the problem with that is, if you imagine the chameleon's tongue pulls the weapon from an enemy, it's not dormant and it's not equipped anymore and it's not lethal. It's kind of like in this weird nether zone, right? So what my suspicions were is that essentially I'm pulling this weapon out of this enemy's hand, and in the next frame it gets pulled a bit nearer to me and it moves across a few frames while it's attached to the tongue until it comes to me, and then it's equipped to me and it binds me as the owner. Now in the interim, as I pull it out of his hand, his AI might trigger and go, I don't have a weapon, and the weapon in his hand is dormant and he sees it in front of him, and in the same frame he picks it up. So he's now picked up the weapon that's actually pulling towards me. So the chameleon's tongue has a reference to this weapon, pulls it to me, adds it to my weapon manager and his. Now we both control the same weapon, so he can fire my weapon and I can fire his weapon depending on who's holding it. That's something else that we need to investigate, but for now we should just be able to pick these up by pressing F. But as you can see in here, we're returning on this. Boomstick is already owned by the player, so that's interesting. It shouldn't already be owned by the player. So we're going to try pick up gun here. Now, weapon owner, try pick up gun. Weapon base. So we have try pick up gun. On hit target. Now this should be where I try and pick it up here. Okay. So what's happening is we set up this, we set the interactive volume at the start when the weapon is generated. This is called from the start, or the await method. We add this interactive volume and then we have a callback here. So essentially what happens is when I interact with it, it's going to hit this callback and it's going to look for a weapon manager in the player, and then it's going to go, well, if it exists, then we're going to try and pick up this gun. So let's see what's happening here. So we're going to hit breakpoint, hopefully. Oh my god. I was trying to show off how nice my AI was, and that makes it look horrible. But I guarantee when that's fixed, he won't keep spamming that horrible noise. But you can see right now, his move intent is to grab the weapon, and usually he would just get the weapon and he would jump out of that behaviour, but he's not doing that. Okay, so press F because I want to pick it up. Now, manager. The manager is in the right hand of the player. So that makes sense. Manager, we're going to try and pick up this gun. And we're going to try and get it from the current gun index that we have. And if we look at this, this is bad. I shouldn't be passing through like, it's not a magic number, it's a magic ball, right? I should be labelling what these are. But that's not important right now. So we're going to get the current gun index of what we're holding, and then we're going to go back in. I just stepped over because I'm an idiot. I just completely stepped over that instead of stepping into that. So we're going to go back to our weapon manager. And we're going to figure out why this is... Is it try? Yeah, try pick up gun. Okay, this is interesting actually. So try pick up gun will then try and bind the prefab to the owner, and this is where we call set owner and actually set it. So it seems like the owner is already set on this weapon, which is kind of strange, right? It shouldn't have an owner because it's just on the floor. So what we're going to do is, for testing's sake, let's just disable this guy because he's very annoying right now. And we're going to find this weapon, and we're going to essentially look in weapon base, and we're going to see where owner gets set, because it seems like the owner's already set before I even try and pick it up, which is just plain wrong. Okay, so set owner. Switch weapon in, which is fine. Player. This needs decoupling, bind charges to UI, but we're not here to critique my code right now. Weapon switch out. So it looks like set owner is called a bunch of times. Now I'm just interested to see if set owner's been called for no reason. So I'm going to write set owner, and I'm just doing this because there's a sea of debug logs right now, and I know debug logs are notoriously bad for performance. I used to have this old boss that used to tell me off for putting debug logs in the code, even though I took them out afterwards, and apparently he'd never heard of source control before, but that's a story for another day. So we're gonna see if that actually gets called. So we have set owner. It's been called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now that would make sense because we have 8 starting weapons, and the owner's been bound when these weapons are generated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the cheat, drop all my weapons, save the game. I'm going to restart the level. So I have no weapons now. And we're going to clear this. We're just going to run it again. Okay, no, so set owner isn't called. So set owner isn't called, but then it's saying that this has an owner, which is very interesting. So let's see where set owner gets called from. Set owner, transition to throne, null. Bind gun prefab to owner, makes sense. That's where it should be set. If you throw the weapon, it becomes null. And if you drop the weapon, it becomes null. Set owner is null. Bind gun prefab to owner. And this can only be called from pickup gun, which is here. Am I going mad? Weapon owner, weapon owner. Am I going mad? Right. My brain's not working. Let's just see. Let's see what happens in that log. So we're gonna go up to this. I'm gonna press F. Boomstick is already owned by player clone. Okay. So let's have a look at where this gets set. So your weapon is player controlled. So this is fine because these are just checks. So owner's not being set. So let's see where owner's being set. So owner. So we're just doing checks here. Which is fine. Load firing modes. Update. Goes owner game object. If it exists. Fire weapon. If it exists. Load firing modes. Load firing modes. Gets called at the beginning, so it can't be that. So we're just going to look back in here. If owner is null, weapon switch in, returns if owner's null, and it returns if owner's null, and this returns if owner's null. So owner is literally only set in one place. It's only called in set owner. It's the only place we set owner. This is, yeah. This is it. This is the only place it can happen. So set owner. Only ever called in bind gun prefab 2 owner. Which is here, which is called. Oh. I'm scared. What's going on? Locomotion. So we know prey held weapon. This only happens when we use the chameleon head. This only happens when you throw it at an ally. On hit target. Can't be this, can it? On hit target. Can't be this. Surely not. Interactive volume, then try pick up gun. So we're just going to put breakpoints in everywhere here at this point because this is silly. Oh, it can't be this because this is called by AI agents only, and the player's not an AI agent. So we're going to try this again. We're going to run the game. Now, if this doesn't work, I just, all logic goes out the window. I'm just confused. Right, so we have to pick up. Pick up gun. So this gun. So we're going to try and pick up this gun. And the owner of this gun is null. The owner of this gun is null. It has no owner. Good. It's null. That makes sense. It should be null. And we're going to manager.get current weapon index. So we're going to step in. we're going to get the current gun index of the player. So I'm holding slot 0, and we're going to jump back in. Interaction effect dot invoke, and the interactor is the player. Step out of here. I am doing something very wrong. Something is going very, very wrong. Oh, we've crashed. Something's not right here. I think I'm being stupid. I'm not stepping properly. Let's try this again. So we're going in here, and it's going to get the current gun index. And okay, so now we're going to call gun. So we're going to look in here, and we're going to look in the manager, weapons, and yeah, all our weapons are empty, and this is a gun, and this gun has no owner, and the owner is null. So now we're going to go in. I am so stupid. I am so stupid. I'm checking the weapon owner of this weapon manager. This weapon manager is the weapon owner. I'm so stupid. Please, like, we'll put a timestamp in. Ignore the first 25-30 minutes of this video. I'm so stupid. We're checking whether this has a weapon owner, the weapon manager. Well, obviously it does, because it's a weapon manager, it has to have an owner. We need to be checking whether weapon base has an owner, and whether the weapon base owner if anyone spotted that right at the start, please leave a comment. Let me know how stupid I am. Wow, I am flabbergasted at my own stupidity. Right, we're gonna try this again. We should be able to pick up weapons. I was wondering how that made no sense, and that would explain a lot. I've not had enough coffee today, that's what I blame. Yeah, oh wow, would you look at that? I can pick the weapon up. Amazing. I drop the weapon, and it's setting the owner to null, and then I pick the weapon up. Right. So this is what should have been happening. Now I'm just going to go in here, in weapon base, and we have set owner. And we're just going to take this log out, because I'm not a big fan of having spammy logs everywhere. So anyway, yeah, back to the world of the sane. So we should be returning false out of here now. Try pickup gun should be returning false, and we should get this nice big fat debug log with loads of X's, so it's very visible, because we have all this log spam right now, because we're in the thick of it. Yeah, try pickup gun. So hopefully now we should observe this behaviour, but we need a lot of chaos on the screen, because, you know, the more people doing it, the more agents try to do this, the more likely this is to happen, the more likely we are to. So I don't want to just go on good faith that I've fixed this. I want to see this debug log. I want to see this returned. I want certainty that this has been fixed. So we're going to put a bunch of these guys down. And we're going to put some shotguns everywhere as well. So there's going to be a bit of carnage. Lovely. That's what we like to see. And we're just trying to recreate, we're trying to intercept where this bug would be. Oh. I'm going to look here. I wanted your weapon, but you picked it up. That's a different one. That's to stop agents picking up weapons that they're searching for if somebody picks it up. What we can do is just search for this X. We're just going to try and like reproduce this error as much as possible. So I'm going to get these guys to all fire the guns. Bang, 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 bang. And hopefully they're all going to run out of ammo. Yeah, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this cheat to spawn a shotgun. I'm going to drop it, and it's a free-for-all. And we're going to keep doing that. We're just going to keep doing it. Now I think maybe if I get all these guys in the exact same vicinity. So this is interesting because these guys are looking for this weapon. I'm just going to do something very quickly because this is a little bit overkill. So we can have these guys. So essentially they weren't called drop gift anymore, which is what we want because that's getting a little bit tedious. And we are just looking for this. We're just looking for this log spam basically. See if we can get it to happen again. Okay, so they're not going to pick that up because they all have shotguns with full ammo. So I'm going to use this cheat to deplete all of our shotgun ammo. And keep pressing it, and everyone's out of ammo now. Now I'm going to spawn a new shotgun in, and I'm going to drop it on the floor. Do it again. Oh, this is interesting. We're not actually getting we're not getting this at all from try pick up gun. So I'm glad I put this in. It's a nice guard clause, but we're not actually hitting this ever. So this is confirming my belief that it has something to do with the chameleon weapon, and the reason I think it's got something to do with the chameleon weapon is, right now, if I want to test this behaviour, I have to use the chameleon to disarm these enemies. The only other way is, if I spawn this in, is this electricity here. If I walk through this wire, I get electrocuted and I drop my weapon on the floor. And the same applies to these guys. So if I pick this guy up with a shotgun and zap him through there, whoop, he's dropped his weapon on the floor. And now he's going to go and try and pick his weapon back up. He's like, give me that shotgun. I don't know where the shotgun went. Did it go flying? I'll try it with this guy. So, oh, the other guy picked it up. Okay, yeah. Okay, no, they're all fighting over these shotguns. So I dropped that on the floor. Yeah, that guy picks it up first. Okay. So yeah, the only other way to actually test this was to use the chameleon head because it was the only way to like reliably disarm enemies. So if I do this, I should hopefully be able to recreate this bug. So let's drop a bunch. Oh, whoops, got murdered. Guys so they're going to use the pistols, but they're also going to use their shotguns as well. now I'm going to load in this chameleon head. I'm pretty sure the I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to recreate this bug eventually, because I managed to recreate it in my video that got wiped, so that was fun. So one of these, I'm hoping one of these guys wants one of these shotguns. Everybody has a shotgun, so no one's going to come and try and pick this shotgun up. And this guy might not look like he's got a shotgun, but he might actually have a shotgun in his inventory, and he might have just switched out of having the shotgun. So one thing I can do yet again is exhaust everybody's ammo on the entire screen, fire all the shotguns at once, and then let's get a new shotgun. And yeah, people want to pick it up now. Drop it, we're going to pick it up, we're going to drop it, we're going to pick it up, we're going to see if this gets hit. It doesn't get hit. Very weird, very weird. Right, I need to go. I'm going to come back and I'm going to carry on this development log. Hello, I'm back to continue this devlog. I've just been to TK Maxx and got 3 shirts with a voucher. Totally free shirts, baby. Right, so I've come back and basically I wanted to test this hypothesis with the chameleon head. So basically what I've done is the locomotion handler for these enemies will basically... I can't think. Yeah, so it will basically try and pick up a weapon if its intent is to pick up a weapon. So I've set the move speed to 0, and what will happen is they'll both essentially, if you look at these logs, they default to trying to pick up a weapon because they have no weapons and they have no other objective except just find a weapon. So they both try and grab a weapon. Imagine if 2 people were just stood still snatching out with their arms and their feet were concreted into the ground, like cemented into the floor. That's what's going on. So they're trying to reach that weapon and they can't. Now, if I get the chameleon head and pull this weapon through them, they're going to try and grab it on the way through. So this is our setup, and it does actually trigger. It triggers that debug log that we were triggering before. So we'll run it. Okay. So here's our people here who they're actively trying to grab this, but they can't walk. And I'm going to pull this towards me. And we've hit this. Okay, interesting. So one of them says, I wanted your weapon, but you picked it up. And then it says, player can't pick up boomstick because it's already owned by player. Oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it? So basically, 2 of them have tried to snatch it. Now, if you look at this, this is one of the bugs I was talking about. It's not the bug, it's a bug. Yeah, I don't control that. But yeah, basically, this guy's holding this shotgun. Because I'm using billboarding, essentially. So these sprites always face me. So the reason the gun's moving is it's a child of the billboarded graphics. So that's why the shotgun moves left and right like that. But yeah, the shotgun's held by this guy, except it's being displaced by the chameleon tongue, which isn't what we want. So I can steal that back, and yeah, there we go. So that's fine now. I'll pop it down, and one of them will pick it up. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, this guy's picked it up. Now the other guy's still trying to pick it up, so if I yank that, we're not going to see it happen this time. Let's try it again. So they are... Oh, I need to just get to the bottom of the logs to see what's happening. Yeah, okay, so the intent of both of these is to move to the weapon and grab it again. So we're going to try this again. And the same thing's happened. My girlfriend's in the background filling a kettle full of water. She's trying to be really, really quiet to not disturb me. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So what's happening here again is they're both trying to pick up the shotgun, and it's not getting to them. Now this is interesting because it says player can't pick up the boomstick because it's already owned by player. It should be saying that one of those guys can't pick it up. But then what's interesting is it's saying I can't pick it up and I'm not picking it up. So it looks like I actually gain ownership of it before it actually gets to me, which is a little bit strange. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have one guy here. I put 2 there just to make sure that it got grabbed. I think we can do this with 1, and it's just going to be slightly easier to debug, right? Especially if we're breakpointing through the same scripts. So let's do this again. And yeah. So player can't pick up the boomstick because it's already owned by player. So what the hell is going on? Right, what we're going to do is we're going to breakpoint try pick up gun, because we know that this is going to get called at least twice. We're going to look inside locomotion as well. Now a lot of this behaviour shouldn't exist in locomotion, but the reason it does at the moment is because if the intent of something is to say grab a weapon, grab health or attack, it needs to move in position first, and then we pass in the movement intent, which as you can see here, chase enemy, random reposition, etc. This is really ugly right now. I'm going to refactor all of it completely, probably put some inheritance or interfaces in there, but it's just to get this working as a proof of concept. So this isn't happening. So when I pick it up with the chameleon and start pulling it towards, he's not calling this. So I can't actually earn it while it's driving past him, because otherwise we would hit this. So I must not actually earn it on contact. But then what's interesting is this guy picks it up, try to pick up the gun. He's gaining ownership, but then it says that the player owns it. So let's see what's going on, shall we? So we're going to attach this to Unity and start running. Okay, let's hit some breakpoints. So we're going to go here, so he's in range to pick it up, and we're going to yank it, and we have hit our breakpoint. So he's trying to pick up this weapon, and he's going to try and pick up a gun. So yeah, it's the shotgun as expected. Get component in children weapon manager. Try and pick up gun. Okay. So it shouldn't have an owner yet, and it doesn't have an owner yet. So that's good. That's what we'd expect. So slot index of the enemy. So this is the enemy's weapon manager that's trying to grab it. And it's basically going to try and find an empty slot index, which this first slot's empty, so it's fine. It's going to call bind gun prefab to owner. So we're going to step in here, weapon base.set parent. So it should be set to the weapon holder, and the weapon holder should belong to the arm. Yep. And the arm should belong to... I always get confused with how this works. Well, we know that the arm belongs to the enemy anyway, so that's fine. So we're going to step through, and it's going to call weapon base.set owner, weapon owner. And the weapon owner should be, the zookeeper, which the owner of game object of that weapon owner. It's exactly as we expect. It's going to call set state, and it's going to equip it. So that's going to become equipped, and then it's going to set to false. It's going to be part of its weapons now, which makes sense. It's going to call one of these, which isn't really important. and then apply extra player logic, which should get completely skipped if we go in here because it's not the player. Yeah. And we're going to continue, and it's immediately going to try and get picked up again, but this time should be by the player. So this is interesting. Okay. So it belongs to the zookeeper. Okie dokie. And weapon owner, game object name. Can't pick up because it belongs to... So you see what I've done? I've done the exact same thing that I did before. I've done that stupid thing that I did before. So the debug log was coming back wrong. So the player can't pick this up because it's owned by myself. That's not right. So it should be because it's owned by the guy that just picked it up. So we're going to run this again without breakpointing, and we should see the log should make sense. So we were trying to pull it to us, and the enemy picked it up along the way, and now it's bound to them. So let's try this again. So the enemy picks it up. Player can't pick up boomstick because it belongs to this guy. Okay, that actually makes sense. I thought I was going crazy. This is a reflection of what a terrible coder I am. I'm literally slipping up on variable names. I blame Brexit. So that behaves as we would now expect it to behave. So basically, all we need to do is put in a little flag that says, am I being picked up by the chameleon tongue? So we could probably put something in here. So I don't like this because it's kind of coupling to the idea that a chameleon should exist. We should probably have something like, let's have a think. So we're just going to make this public for now for testing reasons. Public ball. We'll just call. So right now the issue is the states, because while it's in the air, it's technically not dormant. You shouldn't be able to pick it up, but it's not equipped in your hand, and it's not lethal. It's not being thrown either. So we're kind of breaking this pattern here. Now I don't really want to add a new weapon state for every weapon to just be like, is it being pulled by the chameleon head? Because it's a bit gross, really. So what I'm gonna do is, for now, I can't think of a good ball name. We're just going to call it is chameleon for now. We'll come back and we'll change this when we do a bit of clean up, change name or form. So is chameleon, and try remove set owner, and then this is fine. And then inside of weapon manager, I want to go to try pick up gun. And okay, cool. So we're going to do this, and we're basically going to say weapon base. So the name of the weapon can't be grabbed mid-flight. It's attached to the chameleon's tongue. And that's all we're going to put for now. We can change this variable name. We can change like the form later. Obviously, we don't want it to just be like a random public variable. But for now, I really just don't care. So we can do that, and we're going to return false. We're going to return false. So now we just need to go inside of the chameleon, and we need to just figure this out. Now, this is a little bit the chameleon head's a little bit gross because I started developing this fairly early on, because I really liked the idea of the chameleon head. So it's just not very nicely put together. So please excuse the crapness of the code. But we're going to go in here, and this is our actual weapon prefab for the chameleon head. So these are our weapons in the game right now. We're going to go into the chameleon, and then we sort of inject the firing modes in using scriptable objects. So every weapon has a scriptable object associated with it, and it just makes it really easy to change little things very quickly and to serialize certain values and things like that. So we'll see that we have 3 of these abilities. So when I left click, I call eat or spit. So it means I fire out a tongue and it retracts. And if my mouth's full on the chameleon, I spit it out. So it's both bound to the left click, because it can only be one or the other. So we go in here, chameleon eat or spit. And we have this. We also have the chameleon tongue itself, so the chameleon tongue prefab. So we have our chameleon head manager. So let's kind of see what's going on. So if the mouth's full, it's going to spit the thing out, but the mouth's not full, so it's going to fire a tongue out, and the tongue is going to subscribe to on-mouthed, valid mouthable. So this basically means if the thing that we've hit can be hit with the chameleon head, we're going to call that to here, mouth contact trigger on hit, store game object at end of tongue, store game object inside of mouth. Okay. Transform, and we're going to do this. Let's have a look inside chameleon tongue. And world weapon physical prefab. So I really don't like the way this is structured. But for now, oh my god, that is awful, ignore that. Attractive tongue, animation, first target. So, we're looking for hit first target. Okay, yeah, so this is gross, but basically, if we've hit a weapon here, then we're going to check for yes, okay. So we have a specific collider on there that is, we call it prey, which chameleon prey, which means it can be eaten or pulled by the chameleon or interacts with the chameleon somewhere. So we extract the weapon that we're pulling to us. We call steel, and then the thing that we hit drops its current weapon. So we do actually handle that. I don't know if we need to handle that now because we're transferring ownership, but we'll leave it in for now. But basically all we need to do is do weapon base dot is chameleon equals true, and then once this reaches you, we want to go back into standard. So this is the tongue itself, the actual tongue sticking out, and this is the actual ability. So store game object inside of mouth if it's mouthable. I don't know if that's a word. Store game object at end of tongue. So I'm interested to see how this works. On mouth contact trigger on hit. So I'm going to guess it's this because it's storing this game object at the end of the tongue. Chameleon head manager is attached to the top level of the prefab itself that contains the different firing modes, so everything can refer to it. So it's centralized, so it's like this is how the firing modes talk to each other. You know, if you mouth something, then it lets the chameleon head helper know, and then the second fire ability can swallow it. So this is kind of where everything communicates. So game object end of tongue, store game object at end of tongue, store game inside of mouth, get prey stored inside mouth, fill belly, store ability graphic. So we are getting very close. I think probably the best way to actually find this is to just find out where this is called, because we've already found this. Prey held weapon. Aha. So try pick up gun, and we are done. So if try pick up gun returns true, then we are going to my weapon base dot is chameleon equals false. And unless I'm insane, we should have fixed that bug and put it to bed. So since the only way to pick up a weapon is that method, and we're safeguarding that method, we should have completely eradicated this bug forever. So let's find out. Okay. So boomstick can't be grabbed mid-flight. It's attached to the chameleon's tongue. Target is not edible but has pullable trigger on mouth contact. And then boomstick can't be grabbed mid-flight, it's attached to the chameleon's tongue. So we call that twice. So I know exactly what's going on. So we're trying to pick up the gun, but we can't because it's chameleon, so this never resets back to false. So we want to validate. So on trigger hit means that this has been returned back here, and then we're calling pick up gun. So we can actually just set this to false right before we pick it up in that frame, and then just pick it up, and that should still work. And we can get rid of this if. We'll give that another go. So now there should be no more drive by picking up weapons, because what that's doing is kind of like changing the weapons offset and just kind of breaking how everything's set up already. So let's try this again. And we're just going to aim for it a little bit. And let's have a look. Boomstick can't be grabbed mid-flight, it's attached to the chameleon's tongue. Target's not edible but has pullable trigger on mouth contact. I don't know, that's not important for now. Chameleon tongue is destroying itself, and then we pick the weapon up. Beautiful. Put that near him. Yeah, he's picked it up. I want that back. Put it down. He's picked it up. I want it back. Put it down. Picks it up. I want it back. And we're going to do that again. And we're going to get him to... There we go. So his intent is to get a weapon, as you might have seen in that log. So we're going to pull it back. And yeah, he can't grab it. So there we go. We've fixed a little bug. Awesome. Amazing. And then I'm going to basically drop this weapon on the floor. I'm going to press K to see who's holding what, and it's going to list all the weapon managers in the scene. So the player owns the chameleon, and that is it. Nobody has any other weapons on the screen in the game space or whatever. Just this guy. So that bug is wrapped up. So I guess the question now is, are we going to get this bug anymore, or have we fixed it? So what I'm going to do is we're going to put the volume back on, and we're just going to run this again, and we're just going to try and cause a bit of chaos. So I'm going to return this scene back to its... Oh, we don't want to do that actually. It's going to undo everything, not just the scene. I'm going to place some of these machine guns down. Oh. We're going to place some weapons, we're going to put some enemies down. We're going to put some of these zookeepers down. And we're just going to kind of see if we can break the AI. Now this was kind of like the main known bug that was causing some stalling, so fingers crossed everything should just kind of behave normally now. So we're going to run that again. And I think I've set all of the move speed to nothing, so that would explain why they're... Movement speed 16. Are all the ones in this? I think it's just the guys in this scene. I must have changed a few movement speeds here. Yeah, they all had basically 0 move speed, so this is no longer an issue. Amazing. So there's one error we got here, and it's within fire heavy assault rifle. Now I know exactly what this is, and it's essentially what's happening is that the target's been destroyed, and then it's trying to call this here. So if you're not familiar with coroutines, we need to null check between every sort of yield return, because what this is doing is essentially like this is acting in between frames. So if we go into here, and if current target is null, then we're going to do a yield break. And what this basically means is, say this ability pattern here, it runs, and you know this can't be null because we do a null check before we call ability pattern. So this can't be null here. So it does this, blah blah, and it calls all this code in one single frame. And then this is waiting, and while this is waiting, the thing could be destroyed, right? So we're sort of waiting in between frames. This isn't kind of just running like a normal method, right? It's more akin to like something running in like an async or something, but it's quite different. But you know, as a sort of parable or whatever. So if we go in here for the wait for seconds, now we should break out here, and then we go into here, and immediately again. I don't think this is necessary because we do the wait straight into this while. Oh no, but the while's going to keep ticking. So we do want to do this basically because this does a yield return null in that frame. It's going to check, and then in the next frame it's going to check again, and it's going to keep doing that. So each frame, if this thing gets destroyed, any of these can throw an exception, like a null ref exception. So we want to make sure that we put this in the top of this while loop, and that should basically mean that we don't get this. We don't get this error again. Let's try it again. Awesome. So basically what happens at the end when they celebrate is they look for an ally and then go up to them and start celebrating. They keep doing it, they should only do it once. But because the nearest ally to this guy is this guy, the nearest ally to this guy is this guy, what ends up happening is they all just kind of bunch together into little like clusters and all just celebrate, which is kind of funny. So put a bad guy down. And they sort of became alerted for a second there. So I can do it again. So this is great. So they're defaulting to using the machine gun because it makes sense. It's got the highest weighting and it makes sense within that range. If an enemy gets into a closer range, they'll default to the shotgun. And if they don't have the shotgun, they'll use the mace. So we'll try it again. Now, some of them are getting damaged, so they're going to prioritise. They're going to go, is my health below a certain amount? If so, I'm going to run away. Some of them, if they're getting too near to these guys, they're going to back off. And they're all behaving awesomely. Yeah, not a single error, which is lovely. That's what we like to see. And then let's take his weapon off him. He needs a weapon. He's going to pick that weapon up. And we're going to steal all of these weapons. So 2 of these guys are weapons. 3 of these guys are disarmed with no weapons. So what I imagine is these 2 guys are going to attack these enemies when they come out, and these 3 guys should all run away screaming, unless one of them still has a shotgun in their inventory and it's switched out. So we're about to find out. Yep. We'll just try that again, because we do want to try and break this and stress test it, so we're just going to go. These guys are retreating. Brilliant. Oh, that's what's happening if you look in these. We have a lot of debugging going on. They're all just fleeing. They're all fleeing, except number 6. Number 6 has the shotgun. So number 6 is either random repositioning, so strafing left or right, to kind of add a bit of variation into the AI, or he's choosing to advance on the enemy because he needs to advance because his shotgun's in range. So, which he is doing. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, we just have the issue of his shotgun being a bit off. And he's happy. And we're just going to keep stress testing this a little bit. So we're going to steal the shotgun off him. And we're going to sort of hoover these guys this way a little bit. And I mean, it's quite funny because I feel like in real life he'd just sort of football kick this little creature. But they're not programmed to do that. They're programmed to be scared and run away when they have no weapons or self-defense. So I'm going to stress test it a little bit. Drop one of these. He gets to it first. He's the nearest. And he blasts him across here. And everyone's kind of behaving exactly as they're supposed to behave. So I'm going to randomise some weapons. And give this guy one of these. Oh, this guy's greedy. He wants all of them. And this brave guy's going in to fight them all. And he's using his mace because they're at point blank range. This guy's going to use a shotgun now because he'd rather use a shotgun because it's better. Amazing. So we have a few errors, and I'm going to bet my bottom dollar that these errors are the yield break issue inside of a coroutine. It's not. Very interesting. Gib helper on collision enter. Audio source.play has splattered once. Interesting. So that's something to do with Gibbs. Now, if I'm completely honest, I really don't care. This isn't important right now, but I am going to put a to-do in there. Sometimes returns null. We can actually just investigate this very quickly. If it looks like a quick bug, we'll sort it out. Otherwise, nah. Audio source.clips, get component. So we grab the audio source once in start. And we then do a coroutine for shrink, then die. So because this is a coroutine, no, that shouldn't matter though, because this is happening on collision enter. So this could be being destroyed at a different time. because yet again there's this delay. So on collision enter could be getting hit. An audio source is being made null. But if this is being destroyed, you wouldn't think audio source would get hit in the first place, which is kind of interesting. So what we're going to do is just one of these. Oh no, we can't do that because it's Unity, of course. So if we're just going to press Control KD, neaten that up. And that's a very rare bug. I don't think I've seen that one before. But it's also not really a game-breaking bug. If that's going to break anything, it's going to be visual. And because it's a fire and forget, it means that a gib might throw an error, but it gets destroyed anyway. So it's the lowest of low-level priority bugs right now. So we're just not going to focus on that. But what we are going to focus on is a couple of things. So we need to be able to stun. We need to be able to stun creatures, and that basically needs to break them out of their attack pattern. So think kind of like doing a parry or something like that in a Dark Souls game, right? So basically, when something is stunned, it needs to just stop what it's doing. And the other issue is that we want enemies to basically go from idle and relaxed into sort of frantic and worried, and then back into idle and relaxed. And the reason we want to do that is it means that rather than these guys just hopping around going, well done, over and over and over and celebrating on loop forever, it means they'll just do it once. So they'll run up, high five you, you've killed all the bad guys. And then when they get triggered into an aggravated state, they might do something like huh, or a little exclamation mark, worry, and then they'll go back into a relaxed state. And the beauty of this as well is if we have a relaxed state, it means like processing power as well. Processing wise, we're going to have to do a lot less calculations. Like if this level is full of enemies and there's hundreds of them and they have no threats, they should all really just be asleep. They shouldn't all be running this AI brain. So we should be doing like a sort of broad phase kind of like check to just make sure that everything is not doing like needless calculations essentially. So we're going to look at stunning first, and we'll just go through what we have right now. We just got a null ref, but I think that's a Unity bug, so let's ignore it. Okay, so there's a few ways to stun an enemy. So being electrocuted will stun an enemy, and I'll just get this out. So this guy is currently stunned and he's not acting, which is great. And this guy is stunned and he's not acting. And if I put this guy here, he's stunned for a second. So yeah, that's what stun does. There's a few different weapons that will stun enemies. So I think this one, for example, on its fourth hit, becomes supercharged. We can't test this on these guys because it one-shots them. But then we have a few other things as well that cause a stun. So the bubble bat will... So as you can see, we have a bit of an issue because this enemy's still walking towards me despite being stunned. And it's also, because of his locomotion, it's driving his force, it's causing the... it's basically stopping any force from applying to him, which we don't want that, right? And then the main one is obviously the shotgun. If you pick an enemy up, it shouldn't be attacking you and writhing around and stuff like that. It should be stunned, essentially. So we really need to get to this. So what's actually happening here? So this is cool, by the way. Just thought that was quite funny. So what we have currently is... Let's look inside our brain and let's go. I don't know if I've shown you the brain. Now is probably a good time to go through it. So the brain. Okay, so if something is an enemy, it has a brain. There's going to be a lot of stupid enemies that won't use the brain because they might just walk down they might just like patrol down a path or something like that. But for a lot of enemies, we're going to use a brain. So we have a think interval, and this means that we don't want this to be thinking every single frame of the update, because the game will just freeze up. So it's going to think 4 times a second, quarter of a second. Is executing pattern that ensures that we don't run more than one coroutine at once, or if we chain coroutines, they're all going to let each other finish one at a time. And sensor range is just like, okay, is anything in range, health pickup, enemy, ally, anything. So I was going to have separate sensor ranges, but it kind of makes sense. Like if you've got eyeballs or you can smell something, it's going to be the same range for everything, right? So action patterns, basically we go through, we just grab all of these action patterns at the beginning, through bind action patterns, and it only uses the ones that are enabled. Decided pattern, we cache the decided pattern because then we need to use that in a few places to make sure pattern's not running. Overlap buffer, this is what we use for sensing and detection around us. We use a non-allocated version of a sphere cast, which basically just means that we essentially like load this into RAM once, and we reserve 256 slots, and this means that we're not constantly like using up memory and then having to dispose it, and it's not having to be like garbage collected basically. So it's just like an optimization technique. We can kind of be dynamic about these. So like for example, like less intelligent enemy can use less of these. We have our world state, which is information about the world, and self state information about yourself. Now, if I look in this AI utilities function here, we have a few things. So we have this AI debug frame, very useful for debugging. Self state is just information about yourself, i.e. about the thing itself. And world state is, have we sensed anything? Do we have an attack target? Nearest health pickup, nearest weapon pickup, etc. We store a little enum in here for our move intents, our action pattern types, our AI option as well. And then we essentially have these interfaces here, which I'll show you. But essentially what this means is there's different stages that the AI will think in, like the brain. So it'll evaluate things about itself. So how much health do I have? I can extract that from my stats handler. Do I have weapons? I can extract that from my weapon manager. Can I be stunned? I can extract that from my status effects manager, right? So it's just basically getting a bunch of these things and just kind of like streamlining them into some useful information. Determine needs is then basically going based on what I am and how I act and things like that, my personality type, blah, blah, blah. What do I need? So for example, like if my health is below 50%, then I need healing. If I need a weapon and I don't have that weapon, then I need that weapon. So I'm just sort of determining and switching some balls on and off and things like that, essentially. Sense system then will sense the world for anything useful. So do I need a weapon? Does my determine need say I need a weapon? Well, if it does, then I'm going to sense and try and find a weapon. So it's not just scanning for everything, it's scanning for things that it needs, driven by needs. Generate options is cool. So generate options is basically saying, it's not going what do I want to do, it's going what can I physically do. So it's getting this and it's going based on what I need to do and based on what is around me and I can do, what can I actually do. So say I need a weapon, but there are no weapons, then I'm not going to generate an option to try and find a weapon. If I need health and I detect health, then I'm going to generate an option to get health. So it doesn't enact any of these options, it's just going, these are the things I could do now. They're all in the realms of possibility. And then score options is basically, the options have weights and there's certain things, certain like heuristics and things like that for like, how do I act, what's my behaviour like, and it's going to score these options and decide which is the best option. Once it's decided on the best option, so i.e. the option is attack or advance, move, heal, it's then going to go through every single option and it's going to find a corresponding attack pattern, which is a coroutine essentially. So it's going to find, like, for example, if my option is to attack and I finally decide I want to attack, then it's going to look through all of these attack patterns I earn and go, which ones are marked as attack? Well, this one's attack, cool. Celebrate is not an attack, so I'm not going to attack. fire heavy assault rifle is an attack. So it gets all of the attack-based ability patterns, attack patterns, whatever you want to call them. It lists them together, and then it goes on the highest weighting. So it's going to go like, okay, well, I'd rather fire my heavy assault rifle because it's 45 than swing mace. Swing mace is a fallback. If every other option is exhausted, I'm going to use my mace. It also does some range calculations. So, for example, if it's in range of the mace and not in range of that, it's probably going to swing its mace. Or it might decide that it would rather go and grab a weapon and use that weapon and back off and fire the weapon because the weighting is so high. But there's some randomization in there too, so there's some slight unpredictability. Anyway, that's kind of what these do. Now, that's not important, that's just for driving animations, and this isn't important, this is for things like voices and emojis and things like that above them. Stats handler, that's your health, armor, blah, 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 and your weapon manager, what team you're on, and a debug frame, which that's if you want to debug. Then what happens at the beginning is these interfaces here, they basically default back to a bunch of default brain parts. So this is like the most generic version of a brain. So the idea is that because we're using interfaces, we can slot the different cortexes or bits of brain processing in. So for example, like later on we might have a bloodhound enemy, and the bloodhound sensor range is way better and it can sense things through walls and blah blah blah. But its evaluation system, its determining needs system might be crap. It might not be as intelligent, so it might not be able to say like, it might not have like object permanence, or it might not understand the concept of self-preservation. It might just run at you randomly. So we can swap these out based on the different things. But right now everything, because we don't slot these in, everything is just driven by this. So this is all the processing. This is essentially the majority of the work done by the brain is inside of this defaults file. And then we just grab some things here that are important. We bind our action patterns and away we go, basically. So in here, if you're already executing a pattern, don't think. Otherwise, wait on a timer, and then 4 times a second, we're going to call tick AI. Now, tick AI is where the thing actually thinks, right? It's like a delayed update method that updates 4 times a second, or however, depending on the tick rate, right? So, what's going on here? I hate this, by the way. If anyone knows a nice pattern for essentially sweeping up information to concatenate into a string and debug at the end, please let me know, because I really don't like having to like embed this throughout the entire code base. But right now, it's what I'm doing. So as we've literally just described, it's going to go for all these different systems. It's going to evaluate, and at the beginning of this evaluation, it's going to do what we just discussed: maintain weapons. Do I have any weapons that I don't need, or is the ammo empty? Drop them on the floor. Don't need them anymore. Determine needs, sense things around the world, generate some options, and then we're going to figure out the best option using our scoring system, and then we're going to pass the best option into this act method. So based on our best option, are we going to engage the target, are we going to reposition, pick up health, etc, etc. If we're going to attack a target, it's slightly different. So the target that we're after gets assigned to the world attack target. So if you remember these, attack target, etc., different targets, nearest weapon pickup, these are all targets, and it's choosing which target is my best target. So basically what we're doing here is we're choosing the best attack pattern based on distance and weighting, and then it should always get 1. If the enemy has no attacks, then why is it an enemy? It should always have at least 1 attack, right? So we should never ever really hit this. And then our tactical intent is we're going to decide the tactical movement. So what is the type of movement? So our move intent, we're moving away from something towards something. Are we strafing around it? Are we trying to kill it? Are we trying to eat it? Are we trying to pick it up, right? And then basically, once we get to there, if there is no tactical intent, then it means we're just already in range to attack, so we just attack. Otherwise, we're going to move using our tactical intent, and then once that's completed, we're then going to execute our best attack. And we're going to pass in that attack so that we know the right range. So if say our best attack is hit at melee range, we're going to move into melee range and then we're going to execute the attack. So that's basically what's happening in Act. And then we have a few extra methods down here for executing a pattern, just making sure that we notify when the pattern's finished, and there's just some like safeguarding in here and things like that as well. And then that's kind of it. That's kind of the crux of absolutely everything. This is how it all works at the moment. So what's happening here is we are going into here. We're evaluating whether we're stunned at the beginning of this tick. If we're stunned, we're returning. So basically what this means is like, if you stun something, it just stops acting completely. However, if it's already in the middle of a coroutine, it will follow through its coroutine and then become stunned. So when the update's wearing, it's going to come into tick AI and it's going to keep hitting this, boom, 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 over and over until you're not stunned, and then it's going to think again. But what we need to really do is break out of this, right? Now, this is a little bit difficult because if we're trying to break out of this and we get notified that we're stunned, but we're already in the middle of one of these patterns, we're not going to be able to evaluate whether we're stunned because we're evaluating at the beginning of the tick, and the tick won't run because we're already in a pattern. So we need a way to find out if we're stunned, or to notify the pattern that we become stunned, essentially. Now, I'm actually thinking the easiest way to do this is to be really, really cheeky. Let's be really, really cheeky for now. So I'm going to grab this, and if something has a status effects component, that means that it can be, well, it can have status effects. It can be frozen, burnt, electrocuted, stunned, put to sleep, whatever. So we are going to grab our status effects equals get component. Now, you'll notice I don't have a lot of null checks in here, but I basically have a sort of prefab validator builder kind of thing, and essentially like any enemy should always have stats because otherwise it can't exist. The weapon manager is optional, status effects yet again optional, but we don't need to worry too much because like the prefabs are built in a way where we can infer that these are basically going to be populated, but we can still do some null checks anyway. But if we go into status effects, we're going to look in here, execute pattern. So we're passing in the pattern we want to execute and the target that we're chasing. And if any of these are null or we're already executing a pattern, then we're not going to do anything. Otherwise, we are going to finish. We're going to execute that pattern. So decided pattern dot execute. Now, execute. Okay. So we're going to start executing the pattern. Now notice before when I said all the ability patterns inherit from this base ability pattern abstract class. So when we call execute, let's have a little look. So ability coroutine equals start coroutine run pattern. So what we're essentially doing, and this is quite nice, we're wrapping a coroutine in a coroutine. So this means if the coroutine doesn't finish properly, we use a yield break, we still get informed that the coroutine's finished. And this means that we don't have to go in every single coroutine and manually write that it's stopped running and then manually trigger an event to say that we've stopped running. Because imagine if we're doing a null check and we need to do that a million times, there's going to be so much boilerplate code in there that it's just going to be disgusting, right? So we don't want to do that, so we can use this run pattern here. Now we have this cancelability here as well. Now where's cancelability called from? Calculate as attack routine. Okay. If stunned. Interesting. This is our old AI handler. So calculate target candidates would pull us out of here. Well, stunned is next. Okay. So I think we're getting somewhere. So I decided to just stop recording for a second, just to figure out what was going on. I was kind of getting sick of the sound of my own voice. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this up in a second, but I've figured this out. So basically, we're just going to keep this really simple. In the update, if we're stunned, so we're going to deduce whether a pattern's already running, and if the pattern is running, we just call cancelability. And it's basically going to cancel mid-coroutine. So if there's already something running, it's going to stop the coroutine, it's going to trigger it as false, and the ability pattern is going to, well, it's going to call that event, basically saying that it's finished. And just to show that off, I'll show you what I mean. So this enemy's coroutine is jump forward and then hit you after a second. So if I... And you see I've stopped his attack. So it's the same if I get this battle. And then if I charge this up, and he gets stunned for a really long time and just does nothing. There we go. Knock him into that. Oh, he needs this. Tough luck, mate. And that's going to do for today's development log. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and bye.